Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Picture Perfect. I am your host, Bobby Gross. I feel like I say this every week. We have a big show this week, not necessarily for the movie, but we have the special guest, the OG co host on the Picture Perfect podcast. I've got the animal, Mike Battista, on the show this week. Mike, what is going on, my dude?
Nothing much. The show is going uphill without me, so I guess something must have happened.
You
I don't know why.
clearly were just dragging me down for
Clearly,
for those 8 episodes we did.
it was at least 8. I sweated. I
Oh
nearly
man.
died in your house many times.
Yeah, so the way we did it, because back then we didn't have the video form. We didn't have this, it was just audio. And what would happen was, you live the next town over from me at that time. And I would pick you up. We'd go to the AMC because we got the A-list gimmick.
Yes, we did.
And we go watch a movie, come back to the apartment with no air conditioning.
Because we couldn't have any audio in the background, so no air conditioning, no fan.
We had that shitty ceiling fan above the kitchen, dining room table. We'd record there and sweat our balls off for an hour and a half.
The best part was I would have like work afterwards sometimes, and I could hear and just like my bones creaking because I was just sitting there like stiff, sweating my balls off, like as you say.
Yeah, we sit in the same. We just sit there for all those hours. Then we get up. We're all old. We have like Charlie horses and stuff, and it wasn't a good time. But now, Mike, because
technology,
we have technology. We're here to do it digitally. I don't have to share a room with you, which is nice. But I did mention this last week. I recounted our experience last week watching F9, the Fast Saga. Mike had, and I did complete the movie. I'm curious, Mike, did you ever finish that movie?
No.
You didn't finish it.
I'm going to eventually, but I didn't. I just couldn't because I had no desire to at that current moment. I was in Fast 9 mode in the theater.
Oh, great time! Having a great time. We were crushing those pretzels, Mike.
Crushing those pretzels, and then it's and you have the guy behind us yelling that it's America, no third world country. You can't have theaters turn off like this.
Yeah, that was fun. And then the QAnon guy with the QAnon t-shirt, he was there. It was a packed house. And we struggled. We didn't know what to do. We were like lost for 20 minutes.
I want to just put this on record is that I wanted to go onto the customer service queue. And my dad agrees with me that we should have stayed on that queue. We should have stayed on that queue and gotten some sort of vouchers for food.
Is there such a thing though? Like, I mean, I don't know if they do this. I think it might have expired. I heard rumblings that they're not doing this anymore. It's expired June 30th. But what I would do most of the time, Mike, you know this, you go to eBay, and I don't know how these people get all of these coupons, but there would be popcorn and drink coupons on eBay for AMC for like $3 each. Now, if you go to the theater and you get the number one combo, whatever the hell it is, it's what, probably like 12, 13, 14 bucks.
Yeah, like upper teens. Like
yeah, so I guess that would be the voucher that they would give. But I mean, because we both used our A-list, there would be no point in getting a refund because it would just cancel the reservation.
And that was stupid. I was like, you know what? Why don't we just stand online, see if we can get some food? I'm not going to be a Karen, but hey, I can totally just go.
You're going to be a Battista, though.
I'm going to be a Battista going, excuse me, what does it say at the beginning of that movie? A special thanks to our A-list member. What am I right here? What does it say right here? Oh, it says I'm an A-list member. So where's my thanks? Where's my special thanks? I can't get money back. Why don't you give me some like free chicken strips or something?
Well, most of that menu, they weren't even in stock.
I know.
Right? Like we went there and then half of the things...
They'd give me a coupon for chicken strips and the chicken strips wouldn't be in stock until it's expired.
Well, you know what's more valuable than chicken strips, Mike, is your time. And that's what really counts.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe that's time that you might not get back from watching the Tomorrow War. We'll get into that shortly. But we're just gonna jump into what you've been watching lately. There's a weekly segment we go through with the guests, see what they've been watching, movies, television, anything like that. So Mike, I know you've been watching Rick and Morty, the new season of that. Tell me about it.
Well, I have been watching that on a week by week basis. I don't remember if there was an episode yesterday because of 4th of July. I'll just check up on that, but it's been 2 episodes so far. Very meta so far, I'd say.
As usual.
Yeah, but I guess in a way that I don't know. It's this thing. You're 5 seasons in, and kind of you know what you're getting at this point. It's not like a when I used to watch a show, it's like, oh, I wonder what they're going to do this week, and kind of, I guess maybe because it's 5 seasons in, like it's going to be something like this, and they just do it in different ways.
Yeah, they're not going to change. They'll change the story every week, but the formula itself is going to stay the same.
Yeah, we're waiting for episodes. I guess I'm waiting for an episode that's like lore heavy, if that's a word for it, because you get those once in a while where it like delves deeply into like the stuff that's going on, and it's not just a episode by episode thing. So right now I'm waiting for that. But for the most part, it's been okay. The first episode was had a guest star in it. I forget who, but it was it was a pretty good side story with sort of time travel, interdimensional, with time travel in a little bit. Kind of the same sort of thing of Tomorrow War, where you go into a portal and it's a whole different sort of you go into a portal and there's a whole enemy on the other side. It's like in the future or in the past, really.
Okay.
Besides Rick and Morty, I did watch Luca.
Okay. No, I was just gonna say, what season is Rick and Morty on now? Because it's on 5. Because I watched 1 to 3, and I mean, at that time when 3 came out, because also we were waiting longer. There was a longer duration between seasons, right? And then Adult Swim and then Dan Harmon made an agreement that, what is it, like at least 1 season a year, but then they made like an overall deal for like 8 more seasons, something like that. Do you remember this?
I remember this. I think it's a lot of seasons, but they've had such a long break between that they now have like a bunch of stuff like already on the works. So I don't know if it's 1 per year, but the season duration is getting shorter. They did say that.
They're coming out faster.
Yes.
But I remember season 3, that was still in the time where it wasn't coming out super fast. And, there was that whole disaster with the Szechuan sauce. And, all of the fanboys going after, oh, this show's too smart for you. You don't get it and all that.
You need a high IQ to
you need a high IQ to watch the show. That's kind of when I fell off. Like I enjoyed the show, but for whatever reason, I just don't have the urge to go back and watch the newer seasons. I don't know why that is.
Well, I think it kind of goes into the fact that the show became a meme. And I think that kind of goes into like what I said before about how what you're getting with the show now. Like when you first watch the show, it was a whole, I don't want to say experience, that makes it sound kind of douchey.
It was a cultural phenomenon. Like it was everywhere.
Yeah. And then it became a meme with the guy jumping on the counter going, I want the Szechuan sauce, and just all the terrible stuff that came with that. But at the end of the day, the show's still pretty good. It's just, everything around it kind of soured it for some people. And I experienced that too.
Now, is it filling the BoJack Horseman size hole in your heart, Mike? Or is it just one that is just going to be there with you forever?
That's going to be there for a while. I don't think anything's going to fill in that hole. Not even Tuca and Birdie, which is now airing on Adult Swim. From one of the people from that show. But that show was a whole. That show was another experience, but it didn't get as much traction as Rick and Morty.
Are you watching that one too? Because I'm assuming that would be like a block. It would be Rick and Morty and Tuca and Birdie, or is that not the case?
It is a block. I am not watching Tuca and Birdie consistent. I watched like the first new episode and I was like, this show still isn't for me, but I'm glad it exists.
Yeah, because it was at Netflix for the first season, and then from what I remember, they canceled it, and one of the reasons why was because they unionized, and
Yes.
Netflix didn't want to deal with the union, which is kind of was it canceled before the last season of BoJack, or was that like the first
It was
show?
technically canceled before the last season. So the thing is that BoJack didn't get canceled, but they told BoJack, the BoJack team, we're not going to renew you for a fifth season. Get what you have to get done.
Right.
But they canceled Tuca and Birdie. So BoJack Horseman got to finish its thing while Tuca and Birdie was like, you had your season, you're done.
Yeah. Which I mean, listen, it seems like every week Netflix is canceling something, so it's not surprising. But I would say that that might be like one of the first times that Netflix has canceled a show and then it comes back elsewhere. Because typically what happens is, a network show, like I know the show Manifest is like the number one show on Netflix right now. It was on NBC for a couple seasons, just got canceled. It's number one on Netflix. It's been on there for like 3 weeks now, and the reports came out that Netflix wasn't interested in picking it up for a third season. So I find it interesting that a Netflix show now that it's a possibility that a Netflix show can be canceled and then get picked up elsewhere, because for so many years we saw the opposite.
Well, there's also the version of, well, the BoJack team especially. I don't know what that studio is called. I forget, but the first season of BoJack Horseman was put on Comedy Central for a while in syndication. I remember, I think it was last year, or the last time South Park was on the air normally.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be like New South Park, then followed by like BoJack Horseman, first time on TV. So I think that studio in particular was making content and hoping that it could go out to syndication later.
Mm-hmm.
It had that possibility. So this is kind of like that next step of it.
Anything else you've been watching, Mike, besides Aroldis Chapman sucking and blowing the game against my New York Mets yesterday?
Look. Before I get into the last thing I watched, I will say this: that 4th of July game, that like 2 o'clock, that the makeup game. My father was at the game. I text him as soon as Chapman comes in, warming up, and I go, "Oh God, it's Chapman!" And my father goes, "I know. I've been worried for 2 innings because he was like warming up."
Right.
And first batter, like just tie game, and it was over from there. It was I can't stand this dude. I can't, and I'm like one of the few Yankee fans who's been on the anti Chapman train for like years. And people go, "You're just spoiled because you had Mariano Rivera," and I go, "You're partially right." But if I have a reliever on my team, and my first thought is, "Oh God, that's not a good reliever."
Yeah. Well, I think it might also just be a Mets thing, because I remember a few years ago, me and Allie went to a Subway Series game at Yankee Stadium, and Chapman came in. I think the Mets were down 3 runs or something like that, and he gave up 2 runs and somehow escaped with the save. But it was just funny because like almost immediately after the game this past week, they announced that Aroldis Chapman made the All-Star game, and the Yankee Twitter did not mention it. When all those selections came out, all the teams put out like, "Hey, this guy made the team," and it was Garrett Cole and Aroldis Chapman, who both played that day and lost the game for them, didn't tweet anything out. I thought that was hilarious. But it's
You should
obviously
also
years long pain of being a Yankee fan, right, Mike? Give me a break.
okay. Listen here. All right, you could
This
say
isn't a
whatever.
sports podcast, but come
It's
on.
not. But I will say this: I was also at the Royals game where he blew the lead, and we had to win in the bottom of the ninth inning. And I'll just also say that it's always great when you say, "Oh, the years long pain to be a Yankee fan." When I was I was a child when they had their late '90s dynasty. I had 2009. I'm very happy about 2009. All right, so like, whoopee! Every year besides that, we get so close, then we don't do it. So like,
Oh,
give me a break.
poor Yankee. They don't win the World Series every year, but they make the playoffs.
We missed.
October
We
baseball.
lost to 3 cheaters. We lost to 3 years in a row to cheaters.
God,
That's all that matters.
the
All
freaking
right.
worst.
Oh, and also I
Anything
watched
else you've been watching, Mike? For the love of God.
Luca.
Tell me about that, because if you guys missed the episode a couple weeks ago, myself and Chance Ellison of the Movie Trivia Schmodown, we talked about Luca. I was lukewarm on it. Chance liked it. Where do you fall in it, Mike?
I like it, but I totally think it's like a lukewarm movie. I just think it's very charming.
It has a charm to it, but I mean, I'm not gonna go into everything
You
because
don't have
you
to.
guys can just watch the episode or listen to it. Um, it's just it didn't have the emotional weight of a regular Pixar movie for me. And I'm not trying to say that every Pixar movie has to rip my heart out and stop on it. I'm not saying that, but there was never one time in the movie that I felt so connected, so locked into it that, when things do take a turn and something does happen at the end that tries to evoke emotion, I should say, out of you, it just kind of fell flat for me. But it's definitely one that you could like put on and watch. I mean, it's watchable. It's
Mhm.
just not one of the greats.
No, you're totally right. I think there's two things about this movie that stick out, and then we can move on. Is that I said this to you previously that it feels very three-act structure to this point that I kind of felt like you could split the movie up into like 30-minute bites, hit credits, and then do like next time on Luca, he goes to
Mm-hmm.
the town, or like next time on Luca, will he win the race? It's so cut up that it feels like it's different parts of the story, and it's not smooth. It's like dips. And the other thing is that the only reason I'm kind of more charmed about this is like parts of it kind of remind me of like stuff I used to do with my grandfather. I guess maybe it kind of remind me of like stuff with my family. And another thing is that also, and I'll say this, after Pixar had a long stretch of sequels, so having this and Soul kind of just shows that there was no doubt that they weren't able to, but it's nice that they're still able to come up with original ideas, both one that's a bit more of a mature idea and then one that's very kids, you know?
Right. I tend to agree. Soul more so because I just found elements of better movies in Luca. Um, I mean, listen, nothing is original anymore. Everything's been done.
Mm-hmm.
But it just, yeah, it didn't work for me. And if you guys want to hear my full thoughts about it, go back to the Luca episode from a few weeks ago.
Yeah, you should.
I know you really tuned in for that one, Mike. You didn't even know the format of the show, you bastard. Anyway, what I've been
I'm
watching this
sorry I'm
week,
giving you my time.
which we've established is very, very valuable.
Very valuable.
I respect your decision to come on to the show. um, so Mike, I don't know if you know this, but this past weekend of movies was crazy. Um, it seemed like every streaming service had a movie. It seemed like there was 4 new movies in the theaters. I'm just going to run down the list of new release movies that came out this past July 4th weekend.
Okay.
So we had The Forever Purge, which is the 5th movie in the Purge franchise. I haven't seen any of those movies, but it's probably one I'll get to eventually. They seem like, hokey enough movies. You had that. You had Summer of Soul, which I was actually trying to watch before recording this. It's basically about this black music festival in the 60s that there was like no footage of for 50 years, something like that, directed by Questlove. It's a documentary available on Hulu, and I was going to try to go to the theater. Didn't make it, so I'll probably just have to watch it on Hulu. You had that. You had on HBO Max, which is one of the movies I'll talk about. No Sudden Move, which is the new Steven Soderbergh movie. I'll get to that in a second. You also had 2 movies on Netflix. You had America, the Motion Picture, I believe it's called. It's like an animated movie, Mike. It's supposed to be a comedy. Channing Tatum voices George Washington, but it's like a violent cartoon movie. I don't know. I kind of heard mixed things about it. You had that. You had another movie that I watched, Fear Street Part 1, 1994. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then a couple other movies you had all in one weekend, Mike. Like it's unbelievable. You had The Boss Baby, Family Business. I know you're all in on that Boss Baby, Mike. If you
All
want to
in.
take a second to talk about your love for the franchise.
You know what? Well, you should keep going with the list, man. I could just talk for hours.
you you had so that one is interesting though because it came out in theaters and on Peacock. So it's available for free on Peacock. It's kind of like the HBO Max model. You had that. Then you had our main topic today, our main review, The Tomorrow War on Amazon. And then you had a movie called Zola in theaters. It was smaller. That was like the smaller independent movie of the week. But I mean, there was like a movie for everybody in this weekend. You had your horror, you had your action, you had your comedy, you had your animated, your kids movie, you had your indie. Like it was crazy, and the box office did super well with those movies. With F9 still going strong, with A Quiet Place going strong. But I did watch Zola, Fear Street, and No Sudden Move. I'm not going to talk about each one separately. Just broad thoughts about it. Zola, based on this famous Twitter thread, Mike. I don't know if you're aware of this. From a few years ago, there was this big Twitter thread about this woman who met this other, I guess, stripper who they met, things escalated, and this movie is wild. It's kind of like a mix of Spring Breakers and Uncut Gems. It's also put out by A24, so it makes a lot of sense. It's a very A24 movie. I would recommend that one. Fear Street Part 1, 1994 on Netflix. That was a good one. Solid horror movie. Doesn't like do anything super crazy with the genre. It pays homages to like The Shining and Scream and all that. But what's interesting about this one, Mike, is it's the first in a trilogy of movies coming out on Netflix. And this trilogy is actually being released one movie at a time every week for the next 2 weeks. So this past week was 1994. The next one is Fear Street 1978. And then the next one, the third one in the finale is, I want to say in the 50s or something like that. But it's 3 movies in 3 weeks, which I don't think has ever been done before.
That's crazy.
And
That's wild.
it's super innovative and coming from Netflix because, a lot of times these Netflix movies come and go. It drops one weekend and, people talk about it for a couple days, whether it's a movie or a TV show, and then it's gone, right? But Netflix putting out 3 movies, so you have at least 3 weeks of buzz around these movies. It's super smart. I really like what they're doing here. And I mean, if you're a horror fan, you're gonna like the movie. It's super solid. I don't know if you would be interested in it though, Mike, because you're a big scaredy cat.
I have a question though.
Yes.
When you 3 movies in 3 weeks, my first thought is this like a Bloomhouse production where the budget is super low?
I would have let me look up the budget. It didn't seem like it was super low. It's definitely like it's a small movie.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that it's made on the cheap like a Blumhouse movie where you make it for $1 million and it grosses 70 million. But it's a smaller movie. I can't find the financials on it, but it was actually these films are based on a series of books from R.L. Stine, which is interesting.
Okay, I think I remember hearing about these then. Okay, I remember there was an R.L. Stine book getting published into a movie. So I guess this was it.
Yeah, I'm not
I did not
familiar with
know.
the series though of books.
I did not know. I read a couple besides Goosebumps. I don't know which ones are like. I'm not sure about these. The way I'm seeing is that I can understand the appeal and also just the production advantages doing 3 movies like that, because if it's a similar story and they're all connected, you just do like one. You can do long shoots. But the way I'm seeing it is that if there's such different time periods, you can't reuse sets. You can't reuse a bunch of stuff. So
Right.
like that's
This one
I
was
would
like
really like to see the budgets for these, like when it's all
for sure.
done.
I think it'll come. It'll definitely come out because I mean, we'll get into it later. But the Tomorrow War
Yes.
cost $200 million, which is a whole other thing. But yeah, that one was super good. or not super good, but it was a very interesting, solid horror movie. This next one though, this week, 1978, I believe, is the year. Looks even better, so I'm gonna watch this, and then next week I'll give you guys my thoughts about the second in the Fear Street trilogy, I guess. And then the other one that I saw from this weekend was No Sudden Move, which is the second in Steven Soderbergh's exclusive deal with HBO Max. Steven Soderbergh, director of the Ocean's trilogy, Traffic. He did Logan Lucky. He's done a bunch of other stuff, and I find him to be like consistent. I don't love his movies, but they're always pretty good. Ocean's 13 is a complete abomination. Let's erase that from history. But No Sudden Move is kind of like a crime mystery movie. It takes a lot of twists, a lot of turns. Uh, it's very good. I enjoyed it. Benicio del Toro, Don Cheadle. I mean, the cast is unbelievable. He gets so many people. David Harbour, John Hamm, Brendan Fraser, Mike is in this. So many good people in this. It's a really fun time. It's an hour and a half, which is nice. I wish, again, speaking of the Tomorrow War, I wish that was an hour and a half.
That was long.
A breezy hour and a half for No Sudden Move. I would definitely recommend that one.
Real quick about No Sudden Move.
Yeah.
Wasn't Craig Grant in that movie before he died?
Craig Grant?
He was in Birdman and I'm trying to think of like other things he was in that
I've never even heard of Craig Grant.
I think he was of course he's an actor. He was in a couple video games that I knew, and
apparently it's his final appearance, but I don't know. Who tell me about Craig Grant, Mike?
So it's not like I know a super lot about him, but I know for a fact that in a lot of the shows I watch, a lot of movies I watch, he just kind of appeared. So like he was in GTA 4 as like a voice, as like one of the main characters.
Oh, okay.
And then he returned, and then he was also in The Sopranos, and then also Birdman. But
I'm sure if I saw him, I would recognize him. He might just be one of those guys that you see him in a lot of things, but you just don't know his name.
Exactly. But I knew he was in it. I knew Brendan Fraser was in it, and I knew Don Cheadle's like the star of
right.
It, right?
It's pretty much his and Benicio del Toro's movie, I would say.
Okay, so Brendan Fraser doesn't do much.
No, I mean he's in a good amount, and your boy Ray Liotta is in it. Ooh. I'm telling you, like this cast is incredible. And listen, it didn't blow me away, but it was definitely a good time. It gets a little bit ridiculous at the end, and I wish I could. I don't want to spoil it, but someone shows up, and I'm like, this is just what he's doing these days. I'll have to tell you off air, Mike. But No Sudden Move, I would say, is probably it's between Zola and No Sudden Move as my favorites of the weekends. The Tomorrow War at the bottom. But yeah, I would say
I'm proud of you for seeing that much stuff.
Yeah, it was just stacked. Unbelievably stacked. I can't remember the last time there was so many new movies coming out all at once. It's great.
It's because this is like a big holiday and people are like actually able to go outside most states. So like, put it out now.
Yeah. And a lot of the movies were also available on the streaming services. So you didn't even have to go out, which was great. But yeah, all these movies were, ranged from pretty good to, I would definitely watch that again. Except the Tomorrow War, Mike. So let's just jump into it. Like we do every week, though, non-spoiler. We're gonna start off with those, and then jump into spoilers. We'll leave the timestamps in the description. And Mike, I think we made a mistake here. I just went over pretty much every single movie that came out this weekend. And I'm not sure we could have picked a worse one to watch.
No, we could have picked Boss Baby.
I don't know. I mean, it probably was much shorter than this one.
This
So
movie,
at
all
least
right.
that had it going for it.
When I saw the timestamp of like 2 hours and 38 minutes, and I knew that like some of that's credits, but I'm like, hold on, wait a minute, what are you talking about here?
Uh,
that's too much for an action movie.
yeah, so before we get into our thoughts about this, some background on the movie. This was actually made by Paramount, and like we mentioned before, $200 million budget, no IP behind it, nothing. So this was going to be like one of their biggest tent poles to come out this summer. Alongside A Quiet Place Part Two, and COVID hit, and they actually sold it to Amazon. So Amazon has been sitting on this for probably like a year. And most of the time, what Paramount does, if they sell their movies to another streaming service, they sell it to Netflix. Netflix has picked up that Cloverfield movie, the Cloverfield Paradox. There was the Lovebirds, which was a comedy last year with Kumail Nanjiani and Issa Rae that went to Netflix, that was made by Paramount. So, and then also the newest SpongeBob movie was sold to a streaming service. So I guess it's one of these things where, if Paramount is not exactly confident with what they have, they'll just sell it to another distributor. And I'll just say this. If this came out in the theater, I wouldn't say I would have walked out, but it was definitely very it was good that I was able to check my phone during this at home, because Mike, like you said, this is an extremely long movie for no reason,
No reason.
and there's like an easy 30-40 minutes that you can cut out of this movie, and I think we'll get to it in spoilers. I don't want to give it
I'm
away.
curious what you think that 30-40 minutes is.
I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. Mike, take it away.
All
I
right,
mean,
so I can tell
just
you. So my thought process in, um, this movie had me hooked immediately because they were like, I'll talk about like the first 10 minutes, like because I don't think that counts as spoilers because like there's no real plot there.
yeah,
The first 10 minutes are the first shot of the movie is Chris Pratt falling, and I immediately think of the Predators, like Adrian Brody movie,
mhm,
with them parachuting in the forest. And then guess what? So, some people die in that fall, and I'm like, this is okay. This is Predators, and then it cuts to 2022. what's on TV but the World Cup final
yep.
at Christmas time, which is technically accurate because the World Cup of 2022 is going to be on Christmas, is going to be in winter, but they're wrong because the World Cup final in 2022 is going to be on November 21st, not December 25th. So I hope someone got fired for that.
Oh,
But
bad continuity error.
bad continuity. So immediately my brain's just kind of going like, what is okay? And then I actually had to watch the movie. And that's when things kind of went downhill. Because this movie has no idea what it wants to be. This movie wants to be a mix of Edge of Tomorrow and Ant-Man. And because I was getting so much Paul Rudd out of Chris Pratt. I was getting so much like Paul Rudd mannerisms. I just want to be a good dad, like family man. I got to do this. But then you also have the Edge of Tomorrow thing with the overwhelming force. We got like humanity's almost extinct. And me and you disagree on Ant-Man, but I think it's a fine movie. It's like, I think it's a good movie. And I think Edge of Tomorrow is a really good movie.
Oh yeah, I
So,
love Edge of Tomorrow.
but when they combined, they took like bits and pieces of this, smushed it together, and now this movie just isn't sure which route it wants to go. And there are parts where I was like asking questions about the plot, and sometimes they answered it like 5 minutes later, and sometimes they didn't. And there's a whole subsection of the plot where I'm just yelling to the screen, "You don't need to worry about this, Chris Pratt. Just forget about it, and it'll all be fine." But no, the movie's trying to make you feel emotionally invested when time travel's involved, and it doesn't matter.
Are you in on Chris Pratt, Mike? Where are you at with him?
I think he's fine.
Okay.
I think that he does a certain type of character very well.
Hmm.
Which it's your Office, it's your Guardians of the Galaxy, it's your
Parks and Rec, you
uh
mean?
say again?
Parks and Rec.
Sorry, Parks and Rec, it's
How
your Guardians of the
dare
Galaxy.
you?
I listen.
How dare you?
Wow, my personality type is watching The Office and Parks and Rec. What do I do? But he's that kind of guy where he's either all stupid and funny, or he's funny but can be serious. And in this movie, it seems like he was trying to be serious, but then there were just parts where there was like comedy stupidly interjected.
He is extremely miscast in this movie
Yes.
because I'm not a Chris Pratt guy like at all. I enjoy him in the Guardians movies. Parks and Rec wasn't my favorite show, but I liked him on there. So when he's a goofball, I get it. Um, but he's awful at acting. I don't know if you know this, Mike. He is a bad actor. And when he's in this movie as the main guy, right? Like this, because this is a super serious movie. There's not that much comedy. There's one character that's the comic relief,
I
but
disagree.
otherwise, see, I didn't like Sam Richardson, who is from Veep. He becomes like a friend to Chris Pratt in this movie. He's the comedy relief. But other than that, this movie takes itself so seriously. And Chris Pratt is forced into acting, like actually acting instead of just being an idiot, that it just comes off so unintentionally funny. I mean, it is Razzie nominated role bad. I could not believe it. And listen, Hollywood is going to keep doing this, right? They love Chris Pratt, and Chris Pratt probably loves himself too, because he thinks he's a leading man because when he took this part, I mean it's a $200 million budget, so I'm sure he was paid handsomely for it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he wanted this type of role too because he wants to break the mold of being the goofball, being the idiot, and in doing so he played himself because he is flat out unwatchable in this movie.
Can you just clear something up real quick? You said
Yes.
you're not a Chris Pratt guy. You don't actively avoid Chris Pratt though. Like he's not at that level for you.
I find him annoying most of the time. Like I'm gonna watch his stuff if I have to, right? Like I was kind of interested in this one because I mean, and that's probably, like I said, one of the reasons why he took this part. This is a role that he's never played before. Avengers, which was with Jennifer Lawrence. I'm gonna assume that was kind of a serious movie, so maybe that was the first role he had. That was like, oh, I'm gonna play this super straight. But this did not work for
Was
me.
he in Zero Dark 30? He was in a
Maybe.
war movie.
I don't like that movie, so
let me just double check real quick.
I don't think he was. Oh, yes, he was. Yes, he was.
He was
Yeah.
so, but he wasn't the leading guy. He was just like one of the
Right.
SEAL Team 6 members. Because
Right.
like the way you just said, he's never he has done stuff where he's not the like comedy guy, but he's never been the front facing non-comedy guy.
He's like the most like he's front and center, super serious. Everybody is he's the straight man. Like that very rarely happens.
Yeah.
And it's not a role that he succeeded in with this movie. Like he's been in other stuff where he's not exactly funny, but he plays this so serious because he's like ex-military and you know he's trying to be a family man. I mean, this is like a Liam Neeson movie if this was made 25 years ago. This is a part Liam Neeson would take or something like that. Or you know, if Stallone really wanted to do this movie. I don't understand the Chris Pratt casting in this one, honestly, because he is bad.
I don't know.
And it doesn't help that this movie is so convoluted. I At some point, I just gave up. I was like, I don't understand what in God's name is going on right now. Uh, and, you know, because it takes itself super seriously, they try to give you scene after scene of exposition, trying to explain the science, this and that. And it's also a time travel movie. So that makes things more complicated because time travel itself doesn't really make sense because it's timeline things and everything like that. I mean, there's a point, and like you said, within like the first 10 minutes during that soccer game where everything starts going to hell, and this woman comes and she's from the future, but she's pleading for help, which, if you're from the future and you're pleading for help, clearly that help didn't come, because then you wouldn't be asking for help going back 30 years to that same time where you would ask for help.
There's
So
many,
it's
like, stupid things that
just,
like.
did you understand anything that was going on with the time travel or the science behind this stuff?
Yeah, I think.
Or am I just an idiot? I mean, that's
I think
entirely
I
possible
did.
too.
I think I did, but I also have no life. The thing is, first off, the other thing about that soccer game was that I think they put Scotland in the World Cup final.
Here
which
he
is
goes again.
Completely not happening. But yeah, it was Brazil versus Scotland. How do I not say something? But the thing is, I think I understood parts of it because they're within the first 5, like when they start talking about time travel, the whole thing is the whole like we need your help, and the whole world says like we are now doing a draft, and they go, okay, your draft is 7 days, and if you make and like you once 7 days is up, once the clock is up, you will be returned home, and it's like a very low chance of coming home. But the thing is, my first
I think they said 20% of people
30,
died.
yeah.
So 80% chance of survival, but that's a lot of people that were getting killed.
Yeah, there's and also side tangent, there was a part early on where they're first doing the like physical part, and they go, if why you have a daughter, the people are asking, you have a daughter, where if you die, your family will get $1 million. And I'm like, hold on. There is a 70% mortality rate, and people are just getting millions of dollars. Where's the inflation? That doesn't make any sense. And
well, it's 2022 money, Mike, so it's only a year off.
It's Biden bucks.
I guess so.
But like that made no sense to me. But of course, I'm thinking this is a stupid summer movie. They probably do. They probably go big money. You get big money if your family, if you die. My family, my daughter, because you get $1 million. Oh baby. So they're just putting that in your head. But the other thing is that okay, you're drafted. You have to spend 7 days in the future, and they come back. And my first thought was, wait, do you spend 7 days in the future and then you come back and wait? So it's like 7 days in and 7 days out. And then immediately they go, so I ask, why can't we just do that? And they go, well, it's held together by a shoestring and gum. We can't do it. I'm like, okay, we do time travel, but we have to make it. But because time travel has been done so much, we have to MacGuffin our way. So we can't just do like, it's literally the Paul Rudd moment of why can't we just kill baby Thanos? Because reasons. Like that you find a way. I love it when you're in a writer's room and you have to find a way why you can't just fix the problem.
Well, I guess it was the same writers who came up with the explanation as to why Han came back from the dead in the Fast 9 movie, which was none. There was no explanation. As much as they tried to, there was family. Not everything. I will say this: not everything was bad in this movie.
Wait.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
There's one more thing, and I need to say this right now. That opening shot, it was set in 2022 at Christmas. There was a child Gundam style dancing.
I did notice that.
I was like,
Mike, Gangnam Style is coming back next year. Did you not get the memo?
That's a 9-year-old doing Gangnam Style in 2022. What is this? That made no sense.
It was like one of these.
I had to pause the movie because I couldn't stop laughing.
That was a highlight, Mike, for sure. I was just going to mention that the Gangnam Style highlight for me. But also, listen, I mean, as stupid as the story is, and it's very stupid. This movie is incredibly stupid. Um, it actually looks pretty good. For $200 million, it better look good, but it actually did look pretty good. I like the creature design. The creature design was pretty. I mean, it was a mix of monsters that we've seen before, and you can definitely tell that Paramount put this out because it looked a little bit similar to A Quiet Place monsters, but then there's other monsters that we've seen before. It's like a combination of that. I thought they looked pretty good.
Do you remember what the name of the monsters were?
The oh God, what something claws? Is it something claws?
No,
Nails?
no.
It's something with the fingers, isn't it? It's like
It's spikes,
spikes. Yes,
but there's
I
something before that word.
wonder spikes. No, that's not it.
No.
White spikes. White
Yeah, there
spikes.
you go.
Okay, there we go.
Did you look it up?
No. It just took me 80 tries to get there, but I got there. And I only watched the movie about 5 hours ago, so that tells you everything you need to know. But so I thought the CG was actually pretty good. There's a couple of action pieces that I enjoyed. The first time that they get there into the future, that whole
That's the best thing of the movie.
oh yeah, I really and the stair sequence was awesome. I liked that. J.K. Simmons is in there. He's always a fun time. He's kind of
He's doing his best to be Sam Elliott.
And did you see how ripped he is in this movie?
He's scary.
Oh my God.
He's terrifying.
He could rip both of our heads off in this movie
Really
with those guns. But him and Chris Pratt actually have a couple of good scenes going back and forth. I liked him. But here's my thing too. Speaking of the cast, you have Betty Gilpin in this movie, Mike. Are you aware of Betty Gilpin? She's from Glow from Netflix. She was in The Hunt last year. She plays the wife of Chris Pratt in this movie.
I know her from Glow. That's about it.
I don't know why they cast her in this to be just the typical wife part, because she's been a badass before, and I was waiting, Mike, for somehow she was gonna join up into this army type whatever this is, and she never does. She just stays at home. She's the wife that says, no, don't do that, don't do this, blah blah blah.
You're gonna run from the government.
Like the total cliche wife part. And I was so disappointed in this because she kicked so much ass in The Hunt, and this was like a movie where she could have done that, and she's just on the sidelines.
She's another reason why, like, when I was first watching this, I go, is this trying to be a comedy? Because like there's parts in this movie where, specifically right at the beginning and like right before the climax, before like during the setup to like the final section, there's parts where she's like kind of making jokes, and I'm just like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
like your husband probably has PTSD, and you're just cracking like wise ones right now. Like, what is this? Like, you're better than this.
But I mean, she's still good in the movie. Like, I think the women in this are better than the men, because Yvonne Strahovski, I want to say, she's like the commander in the future. I know her from she was in Dexter. She was in Handmaid's Tale. I thought she was the best part of this movie. Like, she's given so much science nonsense, and she tells it in, a kind of good way. I mean, does it make sense? No, but it's just a lot of futuristic time travel mumbo jumbo. But she actually has a couple of scenes that she actually, acts, and she just like blows Chris Pratt off of the screen. She is like so much better than Chris Pratt. He can't even keep up with her. It was hilarious. It's just, we'll save it for spoilers. She was really, really good. But I mean, other than that, like, I don't have much to take away from this movie.
What I'll take away from this movie is that if this was a better movie, I think that they're like, I think that there was enough to set up a sequel, and I think those plans are canceled.
Yeah.
But I will say that I'm going to forget about this movie. I don't think it's a dog trash movie. I think that
It's not truly awful, but
because
it's
when you say
just not
Razzies,
good.
like maybe Pratt, but I don't even think Pratt's that bad. I
Oh
think
yeah, I'm not saying the movie itself. I'm saying Chris Pratt trying to be a super serious military dad is just unbelievably unintentionally funny in this movie.
yeah. The one thing I will also take away is that uh I don't think that I really don't think that we can do time travel that much anymore because we've just MacGuffined it so much that when you have to find ways to do it like this, you even say yourself that you think it's convoluted. I think it's a bit like out there. Um, if we're doing that and we're some 20 something year olds, like no one's going to be able to really get this. And I don't think most people do. So I don't know if that's a problem with like time travel in general right now that's just become too overused or if it was just this movie.
I mean, I think it's just a script problem because it's not like I struggle with time travel in every time travel movie. Like there's ways to explain it that makes sense.
What
But
was the last movie that you had time travel in it that like made sense?
I mean, I think, movies like Looper, Edge of Tomorrow, they do it in a way where it's digestible. But when you throw like just the rules in this movie, it doesn't make sense. The way that people from the future come back to the past, or the past or the present going to the future, and things that are said, it's like that you would know this. Like there, you would know that this wouldn't work if you're from the future. Like, what's the point? Um,
I Yeah, and
it's
there's like
just it doesn't make sense to me.
there's other parts where it's like the lore doesn't make that much sense either because the guns look kind of different for 30 years in the future, but we're still using like the same type of jets in 30
Yeah,
years in the future. We're still using the same sort of tactics military wise. It's little we're still using Hummers, but they kind of have like this nice matte black paint job, and like that's the future. I'm like, okay,
and the
cool.
guns have unlimited ammo. Apparently, no one ever puts in more ammo. It's
No,
just endless. So I guess that's an
I think
innovation
you're
in the
right. Wow,
future.
I don't remember them ever reloading. You're right.
But it just sucks because I mean, this was directed by Chris McKay, who I don't know if you're familiar with that name, Mike. He was the director of the Lego Batman movie. So I don't know what from the Lego Batman movie made Paramount choose this guy. And listen, I really liked the Lego Batman. Like it's a very, very fun time. I don't know if he was just in over his head or it was just like there was just so much going on. This was a $200 million production. There's things out of your control. But he just, I mean, it's shot fine. The CG's good. Everything you can see. It's mainly script problems. It's mainly story problems. It's mainly a Chris Pratt problem. Um, but yeah, this is like one of my least favorite movies of the year. It's not terrible. It's just super long too. This is such. I guess just with the pandemic and everything and being home all the time, you watch movies for a year at home. You don't go. You're not able to go to the theater. I guess like I seek out shorter movies, and I just cannot believe that this movie was like 2.5 hours.
It was too long. It was very long. It was too long. I don't. If I had a letterbox of like 10 movies from 2021, this would probably be like in the middle. It's just very average to me. It's just going to be forgotten.
That would be
Lower
under the
average.
assumption that you watched 10 movies this year, which I know you haven't.
I'm going to try. I'm going to try. I'm up to like 3.
Well, you only have 5 more months, Mike. So I guess but now I can drag you to the movies. So it's fine. You're going to
Yeah,
get to your
drag me.
10.
Oh, pretzel fights. Maybe.
Yeah, hopefully the damn projectors work this
Should
time.
we? We've been trying to dance around spoilers, and I kind of
Yeah,
want to yell about
let's
lore.
let's jump into spoilers. So non-spoilers over, spoilers from here on out until we play the 60-minute speed round at the end of the show. Mike,
So we're in spoilers now. So how
yeah,
do you want to do this? Do you want to go like talk about the movie in order, or do
you
you
tell
want to,
me.
or do you want to ask me about things that you didn't understand about the plot and see if I know?
Honestly, I can't even do that because it was just so much nonsense. I didn't retain any of the information.
Okay.
What I will say is this movie ends, but it doesn't end, right? Like, so Yvonne Strahovski's character, it turns out that it's his daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out
Which is
that,
such a bad idea.
which it is what it is. I wish she was just like a commander. You know, they always have to like rope it into family or something like that when it comes to these movies. But you know, she comes up with this antidote. I mean, a toxin, I think it is, to kill all of these monsters. She basically sacrifices herself, and he goes back in time. And that should have been the end of the movie. And it felt like it. Like she
Yeah.
makes this big sacrifice. Chris Pratt goes back into the present, and which is funny because he lands straight on the ground and the vial doesn't break.
Doesn't break.
I mean, an indestructible vial, again, maybe another innovation in the future.
Do you want to talk also about how stupid Chris Pratt was in that like whole section?
I know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
I'm going to come back for you. I'm going to save you. Don't worry. It's like, and I'm just thinking, she doesn't matter. Because if you go back in time,
yes,
and you save,
she's not going to be in that situation.
Like, but you just go like, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna save you. But you're gonna save the Earth after like 30 years of war? No, just save the Earth in like 2022, 2023, whatever it is, and everything will be fine. She will cease to exist, but it's not like she's dying. It's like your daughter will live the life she couldn't, and it just infuriated me because the worst part is when she does her sacrifice and he jumps after her. I'm just screaming, "You fucking idiot! Why?" And then I'm glad like the timer ran out just then because
he must have planned it out. I guess I don't know.
He must have planned it out, but I was just like, that's so stupid. And how come she's not just openly saying that to him, like, don't worry about me from before, but no one's saying this. I just was losing my mind.
Which doesn't make sense.
Make sense.
And what else? So you could have ended it there, but then they go into this weird story about there was ice in Russia, and then climate change, Mike. That's a big.
Yeah, that made me like holler that they brought climate change in.
That all the ice melts, and that's what got these monsters, these aliens, to the surface in the future.
Well, the best part of that whole scene was at the beginning where Chris Pratt gets drafted. He's a teacher. He's like a science teacher, and he's talking to the kids, and here's like, once again, this movie didn't know what it wants to be. There's a kid just in the class who randomly is talking about volcanoes, and
that definitely wasn't going to come back around.
I totally wrote it off, and like it seemed like every part of the movie, like in that last section, it was but we need X. And then Chris Pratt looks at the camera going, I know someone who knows X. And he just goes, like, he just keeps doing it.
And then, did you like when the kid is explaining it to him and he's like, I need a laptop. He gets some random laptop and then pulls up this intricate 3D display of what happened. It's like, this movie is, and that's what I'm saying.
That nerd shot his shot. I'm like, he did. For you.
I appreciated it.
Get the volcano kids some love. And I'm like, all right, if you're gonna be a nerd, if you're gonna be a one-shot joke in a movie, and then you're like, your time has come, good for you.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, here's the thing. I can understand what you say when you say, "Oh, this movie didn't know what it wanted to be," because that last portion of the movie, after he comes back to the present and he has to do this whole thing in Russia and with the kid in his class, it is so cheesy and so ridiculous. It doesn't match up with the super serious nature of the previous hour and a half of this movie. I
Yeah.
like I wouldn't be surprised if they, the ending was what it was when he gets the vial from his daughter, humanity is saved, blah blah blah. And maybe they did some kind of test screening and it just didn't go well, so they went and reshot another 30, at least 30
At
minutes of
least 30
movie
minutes.
in this fourth act that is so ridiculously stupid and unironic. It might actually be ironic because then Chris Pratt is like punching the alien at the end too and riding it like a horse. I was like,
I was
what is going
cackling
on?
because I'm just going like, this dude is First off, that whole bit. I will say this: the AI, the AI, the brains, like I don't want to say character. I guess like the way the queen is developed as an animal, like how smart it is. That was kind of cool to watch because you could see it's smart enough to like know like science shit where it's like, okay, they've got a vial, I gotta go after that vial, or oh, like my arm is deteriorating, gonna rip my arm off. It's like a smart animal, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. That's like terrifying. How do you beat it? Chris Pratt just punches it off off a cliff, yelling, "Die, die, die!" And after he does it, J.K. Simmons, who is just in this movie, goes, "Did you just tell it to die?" Yeah, should have done that sooner. Just
It's like it's so ridiculous. I don't and like the whole daddy issue thing, like there's so many daddy issues in this movie. Like he has daddy issues with J.K. Simmons. His daughter has daddy issues with him because it turns out he was a shitty father. He leaves the
yeah,
family. So it's like because I was asking myself at one point when I thought the movie was ending, what was the point of J.K. Simmons in this movie? Like, there's one scene, and that's it. And then it turns out like he goes on this
he's
adventure
like the
to
bonus
Russia,
character. Yeah,
this adventure to Russia to kill all these aliens and essentially give them abortions, except for the mother. Like they just stick the thing into the sack, and then they're dead.
yeah.
And but then the mother escapes, and then they have this whole thing, and then Chris Pratt rides it like a horse.
Well, no, it was a ski, the whatever it's called.
Yeah, but then he jumps on him, and then she's like, he's like hanging off and everything.
Oh, that was like
It's
only for a
just,
second though.
it's so ridiculous.
There,
I don't
I
know.
actually have a theory that I've been thinking about where I kind of also thought that the fourth act was just a test screen thing, and I kind of think that this movie was written without J.K. Simmons in it, like 1, 2, 3 structure. Like he gets home and he ends.
Could
They
have.
added they added J.K. Simmons in, and they just added the one scene at the beginning, and then like the whole thing after, and then that's the whole point. Like, and because I even said in the script, I had it written down after he's talking to J.K. Simmons. I have it put down. I bet you I bet Pratt turns into his dad with the daughter, like how he leaves him. I had it written down right after,
You called it,
and
Mike.
it's so ham-fisted in there. And then there's another part where the guy from Veep, his name is Charlie, and J.K. Simmons is a Vietnam War veteran. So there's the whole part of the movie where he's like, "Charlie, I need your help, Charlie." And I'm like, is that a whole thing because he's a Vietnam veteran?
I
Because
don't know.
Charlie,
Maybe.
it's just it just seems so added on.
Yeah.
It's too weird.
Did you watch Army of the Dead on Netflix,
Yes.
the Zack Snyder movie?
Yeah.
So when they first get deployed into the future, I feel like that was the entire second and third act of Army of the Dead in like 20, 25 minutes because they have to get this thing, um,
That
and
doesn't come up ever again.
and yeah, and well, actually, it was used in the toxin tests
Oh, it
that
was? I didn't
Yvonne.
even know.
So, yeah, so there was literally the money in Army of the Dead made no difference. This one kind of did, but it's like you have to get in there, extract this thing, but you have to hurry because it's about to be bombed. It was like the exact same thing in Army of the Dead, except way shorter. I just found that funny. Like these movies came out kind of similar in time, and then like they take so much.
One didn't have a stupid WWE match named after it though.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
I'm gonna say this: 55 minutes into this movie, we have a heroic sacrifice and people running from an explosion. That
Hmm.
feels like something that happens at the end of the movie, but it's kind of poetic because the whole part of the first drop up until like the end of that first mission, that's the best part of the movie. And like that's what sold me on the movie when you first told me about it. It was, oh, they gotta send like people and civilians, like and like whoever can go into the future.
Hmm.
And I think Veep Man, he even says it like, why is that you got a chef hat on? Like what's going on? Like who are we sending in the future? You have a woman who's wearing a suit, and then you have fat gamer boy, like all with these guns, and like it's like those old Call of Duty commercials.
I
Like
wish these characters were actually what you're calling them right now. It would have been much more entertaining.
you, you have the Maya Rudolph looking lady with the giant hair.
Uh huh.
But like that's the best part because it's just like you want to see you put these people into a situation and see what happens.
Yeah.
But of course they all die, which is realistic. Except for Veep Man, who goes, I hid. And I'm like, you should. That's how you live.
He was the smartest one in this whole movie.
Literally the smartest person in this whole movie, and that's why he makes it.
Yeah.
But like the fact that they don't do more, it's kind of like my problem with zombie movies. I don't care about 5 years later living with the zombies. I care
Hmm.
about the initial society is collapsing. Like we need to do like panic,
Yeah.
and that kind of reminded me of this because you have like a group of 100 people, mostly civilians, put down with a bulletproof vest and an assault rifle into lower Miami, go beat the aliens. And like, that's great to me. And I wanted more of that. I wanted
Yeah.
like another deployment of humans to come in and Chris Pratt has to like watch them just get like somehow try and stick together and survive. But they didn't
Yeah.
do that and just turned into bad Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah. I don't have much to say about this. I mean, it was kind of like I don't know.
There is
Anything that could have went wrong in this movie did go wrong. Like it's
there,
just a big budget nonsense story that I mean you can watch it for, the big spectacle and everything like that, but other than that aspect, there's not much this movie offers.
there was something else though. There are a couple of things I'll bring up because I have these notes. Might as well say it. They keep saying that in the movie, oh, we'll only take people who are going to die. Like you like to take them into the future. So the whole draft process is they look through your records, they see if they can find a death certificate. And that doesn't make sense fully because the way I see it is that if they're gonna die in natural cause, like Chris Pratt in the movie, he turns into his father later on, like in his life,
Then he's
leaves
supposed to die in a car accident.
car accident, yeah. And like his daughter sees him die in the hospital. And it's a whole traumatic thing. My daddy's dead. But the way it's written is that it doesn't really matter if they die a normal death
Nope.
because if they die in the future, then or if they're in the future, their timelines are already screwed up. Like it doesn't matter if they're dead like or they're alive because like you're already altering the timelines of these people. So like, even if they come back, they might have PTSD and blow their brains out 20 years early.
Yeah. Makes no sense, Mike.
It makes no sense.
Yep.
And I think another thing that bothered me was the whole part with the aliens attacking the oil rig. They said
Hmm.
that it's the Sabbath. So do you remember what the Sabbath was?
Yeah, it was basically the seventh day the aliens go back and rest, essentially. right? Like
So
that was the explanation.
yes, so people get launched. So people get brought in on the Sabbath. So old people
Right.
come home and new people come in on the Sabbath.
Right.
So there's two things. They immediately ignore that rule because on the first day they get there, there's immediately aliens everywhere, like in Miami. And when he leaves, there's aliens attacking the oil rig. So when is the Sabbath? That doesn't make any sense. They say like, oh, they don't come out on the seventh day. There was no day in there where there were no aliens. Was
Mhm.
that the day where they were doing the testing, like on
Yeah.
the Queen? But if that's so, I thought that like people were supposed to come in and leave during that. Is that like that made no sense to me.
I have no answers for you, Mike. Listen, I would say like this is a good movie to turn your brain off and just watch it, but I feel like that's more enjoyable if the movie doesn't take itself so seriously. And this one like tries its hardest to make sense,
But it
and it
doesn't.
just comes off stupid
And then it
and
tries to
nonsensical.
it does that, and then you have Veep Man constantly making jokes, and every time it's in the present day, Chris Pratt is making jokes, and his wife is making jokes. But like, then they get into the future. Anytime they're in the future, there's no jokes. If it's in 2022 or whatever it is, like 20 whatever present day, there is a chance that a joke will end like a dramedy, where it's like it's weird.
Well, I mean, there's just no comedy in the future, Mike. That's what it is. Everybody's dead. What's there to laugh about?
I don't know. PC culture.
That
That's
could have
that's what.
that could have happened last year, Mike. Do you not realize that? We could have all died. There
I
would be no
mean,
comedy.
hey,
Who would make me laugh, Mike? I mean, you're the only person unintentionally, which that you have in common with the movie,
I'm gonna
unintentionally funny.
look as the people are all dying around us. You're just gonna look over at me, and I'm just gonna slam my head into a doorway and make you laugh.
That was good. You've done everything, Mike. You could.
Mm-hmm.
You're just a jokester.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all I gotta say about this movie, Mike. It's just,
It's a 6 out of 10, 5 or 6 out of 10.
yeah, it's a 4 for me. I just, but boring, long. It has its moments. It's not all terrible. It's not like the worst movie I've ever seen. It's just like big budget blockbuster nonsense that we've been seeing for like the past 10 years.
It's
With
Independence Day 2. It's those kind of schlocks.
yeah,
It's every Transformers movie except for the first one.
just not one that I'm ever gonna revisit. So there's just it is what it is. I just don't want to. I mean, it would be nice if Chris Pratt just went away for a while.
When's
Because
the next Guardians movie?
yeah, next year, 2 years from now,
I think it's
I
2
don't know.
years.
I don't know. He can come back for that, but everything else you can skip. It's kind of like how people were tired of Jennifer Lawrence after a while. I feel that way about Chris Pratt. It's like, go away. I love Jennifer Lawrence. She can actually act, but
You're so
Chris Pratt
mean.
just go away, please.
Oh wait, and you know what? There is just one more joke I had where
Oh, please.
do you remember the dude who had cancer? That's a whole plot we didn't touch.
Yeah.
The guy who's like, oh, I've done 3 weeks, three
Yeah.
tours.
He was pretty badass in this. He was good.
He was pretty badass, except all I could think of is he reminds me of those people who used to play Halo, and every time they drop into a mission, they just kill their AI teammates. Because the dude just is like, you can't save everybody. And I'm like, bro, you drop in with a squad of 1,000 people. And if you want to just try and help them, there's a difference here, bro.
But
Not
then at the end of the
everything-
movie, he was like, "Oh well, I can't say no or whatever." Like, he wants to save his daughter or whatever.
what
like
kind of person I'd be a dickhead if I didn't help you save your daughter?
Yeah,
And I'm
so
just like,
it made no sense.
What is his face turn?
Yeah,
He
I
went
don't know.
from tweener to face.
Whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
Tomorrow War. It's on the Amazon. Watch it if you want. If you want to just
watch it if you want to make fun of stuff. It makes no sense.
and waste 2.5 hours of your life. All right, Mike. Pick perfect minute. You ready for this? 60 seconds. Movie related questions. It's a speed round. First thing off the top of your head. This is a new game I invented. Can you at least show some enthusiasm for God's sake?
Oh boy!
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. So who
Any
starts for you?
questions?
So
What do you mean? Who starts? You have questions for me in 60 seconds. You prepared a game.
I got you.
This is my show now, Mike. Don't you understand that I kicked you out? You're no longer the co-host here.
All right, listen. So, what are you excited for in terms of like actually getting back into the theaters? Are there particular movies that you want to see in theaters that you have to see in theaters and not on a streaming service?
Are you actually trying to play this game?
Yes.
This is a one-person game. It's me to you.
I asked. All right.
Oh my! See, folks, this is how you know he hasn't been watching the show lately.
I don't. I'm sorry. I don't.
You know, good thing. This is like,
cut that,
you know, no, it's staying in. You know, this is like if I bought out your shares in a company, right? And you're just profiting off it. You don't give a shit anymore as long as the checks come in. That's what this is. I'm very hurt. You ready, Mike? You son of a bitch.
I'm so sorry.
I can't believe it. Like, unbelievable. And I asked you before, do you know the format? Yeah, I don't know it. I explained it to you, and you're still trying to ask me speed round questions. That's not how this show goes. No, I'm not cutting this. It's the best part of the show so far.
That's not true.
Oh my god. Yeah. Right. You ready?
Talking about Veep Man was the best.
Friggin' animal. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. 60 seconds. Did you hear this? Is that you or me? Mr. Softy. 9 o'clock at night, Mr. Softy's coming around. I'm never gonna play this game, Mike. It's just not gonna happen this episode. This is unbelievable.
I'm in the hot seat now.
Oh my god. All right. 60 seconds. Start now. Have you ever shushed someone in the theater?
Yes.
Do you arrive? No. This is speed round. Quick answers.
Go.
Do you arrive early or late for previews?
Early.
Movie you've watched the most on cable?
Godfather.
Ever snuck into a movie?
Yes.
Ever walked out on a movie?
Yeah, no.
Dine in theaters, yay or nay?
Yay.
Denzel or Sam Jackson?
Sam Jackson.
Matt Damon or Ben Affleck?
Damon.
Star Wars or Marvel?
Marvel.
If you could see one movie for the first time again, what would it be?
Jaws.
Comedies or dramas?
Comedy.
Dolby or IMAX?
Don't care.
Jim Carrey or Adam Sandler?
Jim Carrey.
Batman or Superman?
Batman.
Lights on or off when watching movies at home?
Off.
DiCaprio or Pitt?
DiCaprio.
And that's it.
Does that match up to you?
What an experience. You know, the sad part is I knew most of those answers for you. Isn't that something?
Which ones did you definitely know?
Ever snuck into a movie? Dine in theaters, yay or nay? Most of them, Mike. I just know you too well. I'm spending too much time with you. I think that's what it comes down to.
The watch for the first time again, I
knew the answer to that because that's your favorite movie of all time.
Well, because I watched it when I was like very young. If I could watch the first time as an adult, I feel like that'd be really fun. I don't know. But like as a movie I saw as an adult that I really enjoyed, I want to see for the first time again. That's a whole different question.
Why didn't ask that question? Now did I, Mike?
You didn't.
Did I ask that question?
No,
Unbelievable.
sir.
It's a speed round, and the guy starts elaborating on his answers.
I didn't know. I said yes. I have.
Oh God. Well, look, thankfully this episode is over.
What do you mean? Thankfully, we had a good time.
Yeah, I guess. You just broke my heart. I've got nothing else to say to you, Mike.
Don't do this to me, please. I feel really bad. Don't do this.
You know, it's a good thing I kicked you out. Unbelievable.
I feel like complete shit right now.
Well, Mike, on that note, where can the people find you? Not going to find you on here anymore after this episode. You didn't know anything about it.
You can find me hanging from the rafters pretty soon.
Oh God.
Find me Michael B _96 on Twitter.
Why the underscore, by the way? That's stupid.
Because the guy who owns Mike Battista or Michael Battista won't give it to me, and he doesn't even use it.
So why not Mike B96 or Michael B96?
Because those are taken.
Oh God.
tried. I gotta just blackmail that dude. He won't give me those Twitter handles, and he just redirects it to a website he doesn't use anymore.
Unbelievable. That's all you
How
got?
is it unbelievable?
That's all you got?
I only want people to know me on Twitter. I don't want you on my Facebook.
Why?
It's Facebook. Who uses Facebook in the year of our Lord 2021?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the idiots like me. Although I don't really use it. That's another story.
You use it for business purposes.
Yeah, I conduct a lot of business on Facebook. That's how I pimp you out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no comment on that one, Mike. If you ever listen to the earlier episodes, you know that Mike went to jail at a period of time.
Yeah, Bill Clinton and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah, big story. Check out those earlier episodes. Anyway, you can find the show on all the major streaming podcast platforms. On YouTube, you can find us at Picture Perfect. Subscribe, like the video. That would be nice. Pick Perfect Cast on Twitter. All the announcements for guests next week is Black Widow. I'm locking in the guests for that. That should be a fun episode. Was that a Corona or something?
Don't ask questions no one answers to.
All right. You're just so inspired by F9 last week. You just had to drink a Corona right now.
It's not Corona. It was Jack
What is
Daniels. It was Jack Daniels.
You're drinking it out of the bottle, you animal? That's why they call you the animal, I guess,
exactly.
Huh? All right. Let's wrap this up. I've had enough of you. Goodbye, Mike.
Goodbye.
See you next week, guys.